Greg Shaheen talked about, trying to schedule, teams not less than 200, so things like this. So we talked about a lot of different topics to want to improve the RPI, but also improve the league's resume, so to speak.
Did Mike Slive say anything to you guys? I mean, you got any communication from him on the subject? Because he's talked about this in the past.
Oh, yes. He was very involved with it, because he wants to do what's best for the league as well, and he understands the importance of men's basketball. So he spent a lot of time, and I think, once again, outside a lot of things we talk about, those are probably the most important meetings, talking about the best ways to get multiple teams in the NCAA tournament, and what it really comes down to is scheduling.
Cuonzo, Commissioner Slive said yesterday that they're going to ask all the league schools to submit their non-conference schedules. Do you see that as a positive step towards helping everybody?
I think so. One thing at Tennessee, we do a great job of trying to schedule quality opponents, whether it's on the road, neutral sites, home games, because you got to get quality home games for your fans. But you want good opponents. So for us, that's not a problem at all, because we don't have anything to hide. But the most important thing is doing what's best for the league. And if it means submitting your schedule, they can find something better for you, that's fine. Because I think when you schedule, it also goes according to your personnel. You got to have the personnel to schedule at a high level, and I think we have the personnel to do that.
How much work do you have to do on the next schedule?
For what? You mean next year?
Yeah, the upcoming season, yeah.
We'll look at a tournament. I think right now we're in the Old Spice tournament, but it's not official yet. Some we're looking at. So a couple other tournaments we're looking at. So it's not official. We're scheduling a neutral site game, possibly. A couple home games against quality opponents, and finding some road games in there. But so right now we got plenty of work to do, which is fine.
Were you satisfied with your non-conference schedule this past season? Is that, if you could take that schedule and just replicate it for this coming season, would you be okay with that?
I think the first two schedules, my first 2 years at Tennessee, the schedules have been great. Only difference I would have changed, and it's all me, wouldn't have played Virginia and Georgetown back-to-back games. Probably would have had some space in between those two games, but other than that, we still would have played the opponents, but just probably have some space in between those two.
That neutral site game that you talk about, would you want to do that somewhere like in Nashville or just?
We're looking at a lot of different locations. We can go out east and play somebody, but we're not really sure. Because the one thing about it, you want quality opponents. And I think when you look at the numbers, there are a lot of 20-win teams with less than 80 RPIs. Haven't been able to get in the tournament. So we got to figure out the best case scenario every year. So with Greg Shaheen on board to really analyze the scheduling, I think it'll really help our league across the board.
I think when we talked about it last week, you referenced that there were 7 first and second year coaches, and you thought that had impacted scheduling some. How do you guys as coaches sort of balance a tough schedule versus trying to also have some wins because of the pressure to win?
Well, I think when you're taking over a program, it's always tough because it also depends on the personnel you have returning. Because you have guys that are transferring out of your program, so that part is tough, especially when the schedule is set. You have to play the hand that you're dealt. But I think when you've been in the system, you've been a part of that program for years, you have control of your schedule. But you also want to be smart about your schedule, because what happens in scheduling, you can play a pretty good schedule, you can win X amount of games, but some of those 300 games you win or lose can impact the league across the board. It doesn't just affect you, it affects the whole league.
Coach, we talked to Coach yesterday about when the numbers really became clear as far as RPI. When did you first notice that, wow, I better start really paying attention to these numbers?
Well, I've always, paid attention, but you start paying attention with scheduling. But scheduling is not an exact science, especially in the preseason. When you're scheduling teams, like we're looking at teams right now, that team can come off, a 70 RPI. Well, they might have lost 6 guys that played for them, so now they might not be as talented the next year. So those are things, but it also the leagues that they play in. So you got to be smart about that. So you got to spend a lot of time with scheduling. I think when you talk about recruiting, you got to put scheduling up there with recruiting. It's very important. When you plan teams, how you plan as a team, where you plan teams at, those things are very important.
Does SEC basketball need to be fixed, or is this just a league in transition? Does it have a fundamental issue, or just?
I mean, just real simple. I think when you look at the RPIs of the teams across the board in our league, you got to do a better job with your preseason scheduling at the end of the day, because you got quality coaches. You got guys that spend a lot of time in the office, a lot of time in recruiting. I think the biggest key is just improve our scheduling. I think with Greg Shaheen on board, we moved in that direction.
Last year, right at these meetings, Billy Donovan said he thought Tennessee could have the best team in the league, referring to this past season. That was before you lost Jerron Mayman. Did you think that, I don't know if you even saw that, but did you think that was Tennessee was overrated last season with Mayman?
With Mayman?
With Mayman.
Not at all. Not
really?
at all. I mean, when you and I don't get caught up in where you pick teams as far as polls are concerned, but even with Maine, we were picked to finish 4th in the league, and we finished 5th without him. So whether that's good or bad, you know. But I thought we were better than the 4th place team with Maine, in my opinion. But once again, I don't get caught up in how teams pick us, how they perceive us, so to speak. You got to do a job. You got to win ball games.
Do you think when he comes back, I mean, Jerron Mayman comes back this next season, do you think he will be 100%, or is there still a question as to if he'll be basketball ready when the
Well, I
season?
think he'll be basketball ready. He looks on pace to be 100%. He's working out with the guys. I talked to Jordan McCray earlier today. He said Jerron worked out and played 5-on-5 with the guys. I think more than anything with Jerron is just the condition of actual games. But that's for any guy that's set out in the season. But if you look at his body looks great. If you look at him on the floor, you wouldn't be able to tell you actually had a surgery. So he's fine. But for us, it's one day at a time, making sure he's 100% healthy to play the game. Because for me, it's not just Jerron Mayman next season. It's Jerron Mayman the next 10 years where he's able to play basketball at a high level.
What are the benefits of those guys getting together right now and playing those 5-on-5 games, aside from just, Jerron working himself back into shape?
I think it's great when you have guys that are excited about playing. And Jordan McCray texted me about the freshman guys coming in, very excited. They said they're talented guys, coaches. It'll be fun playing with these guys. So, but the great thing about our veteran guys, they've embraced the young guys coming in, took them under their wings, so to speak. And that's a family atmosphere. And that's when you have a chance to have a high level of success as a team, when everybody's on the same page. But it's always good to play against your guys. And once July hit, they'll be tired of playing with each other. So now you got to go off and play in different tournaments. But John L will be with USA Basketball in the month of June. Jordan McCray will go with Kevin Durant camp. So it's good also to branch off and do other things as well.
When you're selecting those neutral site games or trying to schedule those, how much do you factor in maybe trying to put it in an area that you recruit or would like to recruit?
I think that's very important. One thing about scheduling, again, it's not as easy as just picking up the phone, okay, let's play this game on this date. I mean, everybody has dates set. Everybody has a schedule. Some games, they schedule 4 years in advance. So it's just finding the right teams to play at the right time. Nowadays, more than ever, used to be a lot of home and homes against BCS teams. Now it's neutral sites. So where you playing them at? When can you play them? Because we wanted to play another true road game, so to speak. There were a couple opportunities, but we already had Xavier, Wichita State. You don't want to go out and play 3 true road games. It's not good for your team. So we look at all those scenarios, and I think we'll try to find a neutral site game.
Would you have scheduled differently last season if you would have known you weren't going to have Jerron?
Not at all. I think outside of the gates early in the season, I thought we didn't play tough, we didn't play hard, we didn't compete, we didn't play well as a team. Now, Jerron has something to do with that because of those things he brought to the table, engine and level of toughness. But I would have scheduled the same. I think to our guys' defense, you're waiting when will Jerron Mayman be back. Then all of a sudden, I think once we shut Jerron down officially, guys really start to go from there. But no, I'd have scheduled the same way. The only thing I would have changed with last season's schedule was when we played Georgetown and Virginia. I would have probably had a game in between there, or maybe 2 games in between.
So you think the uncertainty of Jerron's status had a negative effect?
I think it has. I don't know if negative is the word, but I think it has something to do with it because here's a guy you count on, and you see him. Your guys see him every day in the practice. So he practices some, he don't practice. When is he coming back? You're not for sure. I wasn't for sure. Then all of a sudden we got to the point. The best thing for Jerron Mayman was to shut him down, not necessarily Tennessee basketball. He had to do what's best for the kid first. So we decided to shut him down. Then when the guys really realized the fact that he wasn't coming back, they had to grow, and guys had to accept certain roles.